Welcome to the video tutorial on how to use Turbo Tourney Pro to manage your NFL Office pool using the My Sideline web hosting option. If you haven't already done so, you want to go back to the website and review the video tutorial on just how to set up your NFL Office pool. This tutorial will assume that you've already viewed that and understand and have already got your pool set up in terms of the options and configuration. So if you haven't done so, go back and view that tutorial, then come back to this one. This tutorial we're going to basically pick up here on a week 1 pool that we've already started, and we've already downloaded the week 1 matchups. And so in the previous tutorial we basically just demonstrate how to create the pick sheet on paper by selecting the reports menu in the tournament pick sheet. But for those of you who have players that want to submit their entries on the web using the mysideline.com hosting option, or even if you're using your own hosting site, this tutorial will be helpful. I kind of show you how to set up your entry page and how it all works. So the first thing we're going to do is just set up our mysideline.com hosting option. So we do that by selecting the Tools menu and the FTP Manager, and we just select the option here. I'm going to host my pool on mysideline.com, and we just fill in our account information on the that's on the Turbo Tourney website. And I like to just go ahead and upload the images every time, and I always have it prompt me, and then we can select which files to include. And there's another tutorial that has more details on the mysideline.com hosting options that you'll want to look at if you have not seen this before, but we're just going to kind of brush over this. But there is a tutorial with more details on all this information, how to set it up. That's basically how we turn on the mysideline.com hosting. And now to go through and set up a week 1 pick sheet, it's the Deploy Via Web option under the Remote menu. And we're going to use the Basic option. And because I'm using the hosting, I'm already set up here the way that I want it to be. And we can specify some options here in terms of if there's a deadline and whatnot. So again, there's also a more specific tutorial on the Deploy Via Web that you'll want to look at that details this information. For this tutorial though, we're just going to skip through these and just kind of show you how it would be different for an NFL pool. And so we can select here what information we're going to collect on the entry page. And the key here on the NFL pool is that since it's a week by week, each week that goes on, the players when they submit their entries have to submit their sheet using the same player ID field. So in this case their name has to match from week to week so that we can keep the entries together in terms of the season standings. And one of the best ways of doing that is just using the drop-down list. So I would recommend that you turn on this option so that your players can basically just pick from a list of the people in the pool, and so they can make sure that they select their name and not have to type it in. And you just don't have any chance of them typing in their name wrong, and then you can't match it up to a existing player. What we could do though is for week 1, since we don't have any players yet in our pool, is not turn this on yet and just let them go ahead and type in their name for week 1. But then once we get to week 2, we might want to use the drop down. So I'll show you that now. And since we're just on week 1, we're going to leave this option off, and we can create some comments on the entry page, and we'll use the drop down. And we'll want to include the entry page in our web report package. We're going to use the website to take care of this. So the entry page has been created, and it's asking to FTP it to our mysideline.com page, and we're going to do that. So I just uploaded the entry page, and our graphics files are uploading right now. And then when it's done, it's going to load our browser up, and it will display our entry page. So as you can see now, we have our NFL Week 1, and here's our information that we're collecting from our player. And notice that this isn't a drop down right now, it's just the text field. And we can enter, there's their picks. So for week 1, we'll go ahead and just submit a test player here. Let's call this test player 1. Give it an email address, and then we'll just make some sample picks here. and Monday Night Football score, submit our picks. So that's a quick example of how your players will make their picks. So once you create the web page, it'll be easy for them to make their selections. Now we're also going to go ahead and create the website, which will give us a lot more information instead of just the entry page. And there were some reports here that aren't being uploaded because I haven't entered in any rules or prizes or anything like that yet. But once you do that, those reports will also be included in your website. So now we have our NFL website now with link to different reports. And again, once we have players and have standings, this will get a little bit nicer. But for right now, we have kind of the enter your picks, which takes us right to the entry page that we just uploaded. And so now what we can do is, after we have had our players go to the website and enter their picks, we can go ahead and just download those picks from turbotourney.com. And before we do that, it's going to tell us we need to establish a password. So we come to the control panel and we just select the get password option. And that's going to send us an email to the address that we have on file, and will email us the password that we need to include. And I have already received my password, so I'll put that in here. We can check the status, and it shows me that I have a couple of entries out here, and I have the option of downloading them, having them emailed to me, or resetting my entry file. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and go back now and select the remote menu, turbotourney.com control panel, remote menu, load up picks from turbotourney.com. We can download the entries, start the import, and it's been imported. So now when I look at my file, I actually have a couple of test players out here now. So basically what I can do is, after the games are played, as we record the results of each game, and you can also just download these from the website as well, so I'm entering them by hand. And now it's telling me that week 1 is over, and it's time to move on to create week 2. But before I'm going to do that, I want to make sure I have all my reports created. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back through and do my build website, which is going to update all my reports and update my website. And it's going to have the latest standings, the latest season standings, player picks, all that, based on the end of week 1. And so that will give me, as people come to the website, they can see where they're at in terms of week 1. As you can see here now, it tells me at a glance here who the top players are. I can come over here and I can look at the current standings for week 1, see who's ahead. And then once I do that, I can then come back now and create the week 2 pool by selecting that from the tools menu. And that's going to basically carry forward all my players and the season totals from week 1 to week 2. And we'll just call this NFL week 2 test. And so now I've moved on to week 2. I can download my matchups just like I had done before. Here's the week 2 matchups. And then I'm going to again go back through to create the entry page, deploy via web. Just go back through my settings again, just like I did last time. And it's retained all my information for me. And it's going to upload a new entry page now for week 2. So now, here's our website, and our entry page is for week 2. And as you notice though, it still does not have the drop down. So now if your players were to enter their picks, they have to make sure they typed in their name exactly as it was in week 1. So let's go back through the remote deploy via web one more time. And let's turn on that option of the drop down list. And if you want to let new players enter now, in the middle of the season, you can do that by leaving this option selected. If you're only going to let your pool be open to the people who started in week 1, you can turn this off and then they won't be able to make no new players can be added. We'll go ahead and leave this selected though for adding new players. You can see how they can do that. So let's go through and we'll recreate our entry page again. And now when I look at my entry page, I have a drop-down list with my players already selected. So I can just come in here now, if I'm Jim, and I can select my entry, and that way I don't have to worry about getting my name spelled correctly. That just makes sure that my entries match up from week to week. If I'm a new player, I can select new, enter my name here, and it'll add me to the list, and I can submit an entry kind of midstream if I want to. So this is just the same process you'll follow each week, just creating your website, downloading the matchups for each week, and as the results are entered, you just move on to the next week, selecting the tools menu, create the next week's pool. Just repeat that same process for each week until the end of the NFL season. So that's just a quick overview of how to use Turbo Tourney Pro, the hosting option, to let your players submit their picks on the web.